Hi there. Today we're going to talk about JavaScript objects, and this can be pretty complicated for a beginning programmer. So we're going to take a look at this and work with it multiple times, but let's just get an understanding for what a JavaScript object is. It is, first of all, a complex variable type. So because of that, this is not something as simple as just a string or a number. An object is a group of variables and functions, and what we do in objects is our variables that we're used to using in programs, when they are sitting inside an object, they are called a property. When a function is sitting inside of an object, it is called a method. So you've already worked with some JavaScript objects that are predefined, such as the math object, and working with different properties of strings and arrays and things like that. So if you kind of think about how those things are created, an object will allow you to kind of make your own data type filled with different properties and allow you to group that information together into a way that makes sense to you. Okay, so as I mentioned, they have properties and behaviors, and properties represent things that may or may not change. So if you think about something like a car, and you think about the car as an object, a car can have different properties. So it can have a certain number of axles or a certain number of wheels. It can have a certain color. It can have a model. It can have a year. All of these different types of identifiers can be about the object. Okay, if you think of a person, same thing. A person can have a name. A person can have a height, an age, a birth date, an address. So all of those things are grouped together to make it easier for you to work with a complex data type. Okay, and then behaviors are things that we want to have happen to our object. So we might do something like, maybe we want to output certain information about our object. And that might be a method that we call. Or maybe we have a certain set of steps that we perform to update our properties in our object. So something like that might be a method that we call to make that happen. Okay, so here is an example of the syntax for a very basic object called person. Okay, so you'll notice the curly braces, and then what we have here, instead of using an assignment equals sign, we're going to use a colon, because remember, these are properties that we are creating. So we're going to still use the same rules for creating a variable when it comes to naming. So first name, this is in camel case. You want to make sure you don't put any spaces or anything in these property names. So first name, and then Brian, it's enclosed in quotations, so you know that's a string. And then you're going to put a comma to separate your property list. So you can have as many properties in here as you want. Okay, so this is an object with two properties, first name and last name. Okay, so the cool thing, now that we've got this object created, is how do we output that information? So if I want to say hello to this particular person, I can reference two ways. So I like to kind of call this first way person.firstname, kind of more like the formal, the long method of calling it. So you're using this dot notation. That basically is saying first name is a property of person. Or you can kind of use it in what we're used to as in an array format, is using the square braces with a quotation to specify the name of the property. So whichever way works for you works. Okay, now you can also change those values. So just like you can, create a variable and then change that variable within your program, you can do the same thing by using the dot notation. So the name of the object, dot, the property name, and then you can update that to whatever you want that to be. Okay, now here is what a method looks like. And methods, it's just a fancy word for a function that is sitting inside of our object. So if you take a look at this, we have full name. That's going to be the name of our method. And we're defining it as a function. And then we're going to say return this, okay, because this is the object that we are in. We're going to use the word this to make to specify this object dot first name plus a space, so we're going to concatenate it, plus this dot last name. Okay, so that's going to return that when you call that particular method. So let's take a look at how we would do this. So very similar to how we would reference one of the properties, we would use the name of the object, a dot, and then the name of the method with our parentheses, like we would do for any function. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and practice with our JavaScript object by creating an object named student. Okay, so I've basically opened up a code pen and I'm going to start creating my code with all of these different properties. Now, keep in mind that these properties are just natural language, so I need to convert them into JavaScript format for that particular property name. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is do var, and the name of my object is going to be student, and I'm going to use the equal sign. And so again, the syntax is a little bit different than what we're used to, but again, we're assigning it, so we're using that assignment operator, and then we're using our curly braces. And I like to indent or tab over so that I can make this easy to read. So I'm going to start with first name. I'm going to use camel case here. And remember, we are not using equal sign, we are using a colon. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the first name here, last name. Oops. And let's put my last name in here. And then city. Go ahead and put Los Angeles. And state. So since these are all string values, I will be using the quotations. And I'm just making up some information here. Phone. And student ID. I guess I'll stick with lowercase d. Now, why did I put student ID in a quotation? The only reason I did that is because usually if I'm going to declare a number that I'm going to actually be performing math with, I will declare it as a number. But a student ID I don't use for mathematical purposes, so I always default it to a string. Okay, major, web development, of course. And okay, so this is going to be classes registered for this semester. So I want to create something for this semester. So I'm going to say like fall 2019 and my colon, and then I want this to be an array. So I'm going to use my square brackets, and I'm going to say something like COSW10, and keeping to my array format. And okay, so those are my courses. Oops, not getting too excited with those semicolons. And interests. And again, this is going to be an array. So I'm going to put coding, reading, and video games. And is there anything else? Nope, I think that is all that I need here. And I have my closing bracket at the end. Okay, so this is my object. Now, as mentioned in the slide, if I want to output a particular thing from this object, let's just do a quick alert. And let's say I want to say student, oops, of course I got to change my behavior. Auto update, don't want that to happen while I'm typing my alert. So again, the name of the object is student. So I'm going to reference student dot first name. Okay, so this is just going to give me the variable. It's not going to say anything else. I click run, and there is my name. If I want to turn this into hello space plus, concatenate that, I can say hello Dina. Now if I wanted to output this to the page, I can then do document.write and run that, and there is my hello Dina without any CSS. Of course it looks awful. If I want to change a value, I can say student.firstname equals Jane, and then you will see here that the first time it outputs, it's going to say Dina, and if I do it one more time, it is now going to say Jane. Okay, so you can use objects as a way to store and update content. So that is the first part of this, is creating that object with the following properties. Now let's make this a little bit more complicated and go by creating two methods. So instead of me having to write all this stuff out, wouldn't it be nice if I could just reference an actual method and call that and have it write it out for me? So let's go ahead and write that method in here. Since I'm going to include this directly in the object, I'm going to put a comma, and then I'm going to create my function. So the first function is going to be called student biography, and there's a colon, function. So bear with me here because we're kind of doing like a little bit of a nested thing here. So I'm going to do document.write student dot first name, and I'm going to keep going. I'm kind of trying to output this in a way that will sort of make sense. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have it say the student name, and you like to, and then I'm going to do student interests and a 1. So I'm not grabbing the whole array, but I would be grabbing reading. So you like to do that. Okay, and then let's keep going. Document.write, and you notice I'm putting these BRs in here. Why am I putting BRs in here? So that when it outputs to the page, they'll be all on a separate line. So you are, oh, you know what? I didn't include an age. So let's go ahead and add an age in here somewhere. Age, and I'll just say 25. That's a good age. So you are plus student. Oops, sorry, I added an extra S in there. Student.age and plus years old. And let's see what else we can do. You are majoring in student.major. Okay. Does that look right? Let's see. It's kind of a little distracted thinking, typing, and talking to you guys at the same time. So the best way to do this is to see if I can actually get this to work. So the way I'm going to run that is I'm going to just call student biography, and I'm going to close that with the semicolon and see what happens. So this is going to go away. And here we go. So Dina, you like to, oh, I guess I didn't format that correctly. You like to reading. You like to read. You are, 20, I can get rid of that colon. You are 25 years old, I wish, and you are majoring in web development. So you can put HTML inside here, and I want you to feel like you can do that. So let's say I wanted to make my student.firstname inside of an H1 tag. I can totally put that H1 tag around it, and let's see what that looks like. So there we go. You like to, okay, I guess I'm going to change this. You like to code, you like to read, you like to play video games. All right, so that is how we can use a function or method inside here. So why don't you go ahead and do the second method, student schedule, on your own, and that is going to display first and last name, email address, phone number, student ID, major, and classes registered. So in that case, we can, for this, you can go ahead and just use output one of the classes that they are registered for, if you would like to do that. And go ahead and good luck. I will be right back to show you how I did that, but go ahead and pause the video. Take some time to try and write that one on your own. Okay? Thanks. Be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and coded my solution for the second method, student schedule. And if you could take a look and see what I did, very similar to what we did for student biography. I put in the student name, first name and last name within an H2, and then I did the email. You notice I didn't put a line break before the email because the H2 will automatically have it start on a new line. Everything else I did put a BR. Oh, actually, this does not need to be there. Sorry, I was trying something out here. What I did to get all of the classes, I used toString, which will convert the fall 2019 array and output it as a string. So that's what's happening here. I call student.studentSchedule. You'll see the student biography shows up here. This is an H1, and because I have that extra BR still at the top right here, I'll take that out so there won't be as much of a space there. Let me run it one more time. All right, so here we go, Dina. That's the first one, and then here is my second function, student schedule. It's going to write the, oops, I didn't put a space in here. See, this is why we go through and test our code. Just make sure that there aren't any problems. Try that one more time. Okay, so here we now have our space. Here's my email, my phone, my student ID, my major, and then there is that list of classes registered. And the way I found out to use the toString is I referred to my handy W3 schools, which will allow me to convert an array to a string. And I just used that same format, but instead of creating a new variable, I just added it in to my student.fall 2019, where I would normally specify a particular index to that array. I just used toString to make that happen. Okay, so that is our very brief introduction into objects. We will be working more with objects next week with our character generator program, so stay tuned. If you are in my class, if you're not in my class, I'm sure there will be a video posted on that character generator program. So have fun, keep coding, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.